The World Intellectual Property Organization, which is a part of the United Nations, established in 1967 with 193 member states worldwide, decides on a theme for each year's World Intellectual Property Day. For World IP Day 2022, the theme is IP and Youth, Innovating for a Better Future. I love that youth innovators are being celebrated this year on World IP Day. This sector of our society has an extraordinary ability to identify problems, pain points, and develop creative solutions to address them. Much of IP is geared to do just that, finding solutions. Sometimes we get stuck in the "this is how it's always been" mentality, and young minds challenge us to get out of our own heads and innovate. But creativity isn't contrary to practicality. Creating comes with risks, not only in the execution, but in the protection of the innovations. IP must be guarded by the rights granted through trademarks, copyrights, patents, and the knowledge of how to protect your IP sits side by side with innovation. Creators need to take the time to understand the mechanics of protecting their creations, which include enforcing their rights. Today, we are excited to welcome you to World IP Day 2022, Youth and Entrepreneurs. Stay tuned to learn more about the creative journeys and the practical steps that you can take to protecting your innovations.
On behalf of the Center for Anti-Counterfeiting and Product Protection, welcome to World IP Day 2022. My name is Carrie Camel. I'm the Assistant Director for Education and Outreach at the A-CAPP Center. And we're really excited to be able to present this event today focused on youth and entrepreneurs and their experiences with intellectual property.
My name is Ahmet Kırca, and I'm the Director of the International Business Center, MSU Cyber at Broad College, Michigan State University.
Hello, I'm Mike Ball, Special Agent with Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, and the National IPR Center.
The A-CAPP Center is a multidisciplinary research-based hub at Michigan State University that focuses on helping those in the brand protection community, whether that is a brand, which could be a small business ready to start and sell their products in a store or even online, to big multinational enterprises that are selling globally.
In the International Business Center, our primary focus is to connect the Broad College and Michigan State University with the rest of the state and the country to help small and medium-sized companies expand internationally. International trade and international business, that's our primary focus, and to enhance the global competitiveness of U.S. businesses.
Are you a small business owner, or do you have the next big idea in the making? If so, you're going to need protection for your intellectual property. For help protecting your intellectual property, you've come to the right place. The IPR Center leads the U.S. government's efforts to stop global IP theft and protect small brands like yours.
As coming from a family of entrepreneurs, I know how important it is for those who are starting their own business to protect their intellectual property, to protect those ideas that they've come up with, that passion that they have for their own business. It is really important, and I'm really excited to be a part of this event today. And I'm excited that the center is able to host this event for all of you out there who are interested in learning more about intellectual property beyond just what is a patent, a trademark, a copyright, but how to actually protect your product when someone starts infringing upon it.
We're here to provide resources free of charge to help entrepreneurs protect their business against IP theft, fraud, trade secret violations, and cybersecurity intrusion. You know, an average of 99% of small businesses in the U.S. typically do not have the resources needed to protect their intellectual property. As business owners, we understand that you've worked hard to develop and sell your products and innovations. We want to help you protect your name, brand, and reputation.
In international business, this is a very important topic because whenever you cross borders, small and medium-sized companies have to deal with these intellectual property issues, and we're happy to sponsor this event.
With more than 6 million entrepreneurs and business owners in the U.S. under the age of 35, this year's World IP Day is focused on young entrepreneurs, and the IPR Center is here to help you succeed.
You are not alone in this journey, that almost every business out there who has developed a great product and a great brand is probably going to be copied at some point or have theft of their intellectual property. And to let you all know that there are plenty of resources out there from our partners at the event today, whether it's the IPR Center or the International Business Center at Michigan State, or from the A-CAPP Center, or from a whole host of other organizations that can provide resources for you to help protect your brand either at no cost or minimal cost.
Welcome, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed that video. Great, amazing work from our partners here and the folks here at the A-CAPP Center, as well as myself, honestly. And welcome to World IP Day 2022, hosted by the A-CAPP Center, the IPR Center, and the International Business Center from MSU. My name is Brandon Drain, and I am the Communications and Marketing Lead here at the A-CAPP Center. And for more information on the center, the IPR Center, and the International Business Center, please check out our event website, which will more than likely be given to you towards the end. And we'll also be linking out at the end a resource page, which all of you can attend and look at, and has a lot of cool stuff to help you guys protect your IP. And I would also like to give a thank you to our partners at the event today, our folks at the Burgess Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at MSU, as well as our folks at IACC. And additionally, I'd like to thank our sponsors for this event as well, because couldn't have done it without those guys. Our silver lever sponsors, we give a shout out to the folks at Underwriters Laboratories, as well as Amazon. And our bronze sponsors, we like to give a big shout out and thank you to our folks at IBC, as well as Scout, who we're actually in their location today. So big shout out to the folks at Scout CMS, and we're currently live streaming from Royal Oak, Michigan. Today, we'll be speaking with Sean Williams from Detroit versus Everybody. And towards the end, we'll have some practical steps in order for you entrepreneurs out there to take in order to protect your IP. And I'd like to briefly introduce Sean right now. Sean and I spoke maybe a month or so ago. He's the co-founder and commercial director for Detroit versus Everybody. And in case most of you didn't know, Detroit versus Everybody is one of the biggest brands in the city of Detroit, as well as Michigan. And I'm excited to have you here today again, Sean. How's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. Honored to speak on this platform today.
Yeah. And a platform too that, again, for this event, World IP Day, focused on youth and entrepreneurs, you yourself, you had an interesting route from what I know as an entrepreneur, a little bit nuanced, a little bit different than most folks who came up out the rise, right? You went to college. You wanted to be in the medical field, right?
Well, it started off in the medical field. Like my mom pushed me to do that. I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But I went, according to her wishes. I did my pre-med requirements. And then after I got that done, I told her, like, Mom, I don't think I can do this. And then she said, try teaching. And I was like, okay, I'll try that. Did that, couple classes, didn't like that. So I was in college just trying to figure things out. Finally figured out that actually my mom found this career for me, actuarial science. It's like math mixed with business. And so I'm like, oh, that's cool. I think I could do something like that. So actually majored in econ and with the specialization in actuarial science while I was at State. Finished off that degree with the specialization, and then went to work for Blue Cross Blue Shield, like my first 2 years coming out of school.
Yeah. And I guess many can probably relate to that too, right? Having those external forces pressuring you towards going into something that is probably lucrative in terms of finances and money, but you know, what lies at the heart is probably not there. And that's not what's going to keep you there, right?
No, for sure.
And, you know, I'm an MSU grad myself, probably a few years way out than you did. But in those times, you have an idea of where you want to go in life, right? You have this focus of having this quote unquote normal societal life.
Mm-hmm.
And for a person like you who went through years of schooling, who had the tried and true formula towards working your way up towards, you know, in the medical schools, that turn, right? Where did that turn happen? What made you decide that, okay, I'm going to become an entrepreneur? I'm going to throw all of these years of college behind, and I'm going to go out here into this scary, dark land and try to make my own business. What started that?
I couldn't see myself, you know, working for a corporation. I just couldn't vision. And I'm like a very like, I need to see like down the line. Like I'm always in my head, like looking 5, 10, 15 years down the line. And I just couldn't even picture, you know, working my way up a corporate ladder. I never could do it. And so my partner, Tommy Walker, you know, he's been my best friend since we were 5 years old. We went to elementary school together. We split ways in middle school, came back to high school, went to Cass Tech, and then I ended up going to Michigan State. He ended up going to Wayne State. But we always would talk, you know, throughout the years, like, you know, we're going to build something when we get older. Like Tommy, I remember back in elementary school, he would bring his old toys and candy to school and sell them.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, and he would actually make money, you know, to go buy what he wanted to buy. And I'm like, that's actually pretty cool. Like you don't have to ask your parents for money.
Yeah.
You go make your own money. And so that's kind of like where the bug started with, like, through him. And then, you know, fast forward to, you know, a year before I graduated, he presented me with the opportunity to go into business with him. So I'm like, that actually makes more sense. I could see myself building something with my best friend as opposed to trying to work up a corporate ladder.
And I'm going to stop you right there and ask, you'd spent 4 years, or at least 4 years in college, right?
6. I was a super senior.
So you spent 6 years in college.
Yes.
You have these parents who kind of put you in this situation, right? They paid for your schooling and you went through the whole gamut of college. How was that conversation with your folks and saying, yeah, Mom, this isn't for me. I'm going to go start this business with my friend Tommy?
Oh, there wasn't a conversation. So I finally worked my way to underwriting, and I was sitting for, I think, my second actuarial exam. And, you know, my mom was, you know, proud that I was doing that because she wasn't very happy with my path. Like she wanted me to go to U of M.
Okay.
And I got waitlisted at U of M, and State let me in. I'm like, I don't like being waitlisted, so I'm gonna go to State. And they ended up letting me in. So she was like, well, you can go to U of M now. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'll just go to State. And so she was a little disturbed by that. And then when I chose not to be a doctor, she was disturbed by that. So I was constantly disappointing my mom, but at the end of the day, I was still going to school and doing something. So she, you know, she accepted it. So when I finally went to work for Blue Cross, you know, she was like, okay, now you're on the right path. I can see you growing here. And 2 years in, me and my partners, you know, we had started, you know, Detroit versus everybody started rolling. And I'm like, I have to leave.
Yeah.
And I put my 2-week notice in. I didn't tell my mom. And she finally figured it out maybe 4 to 5 months in. And then she was like, well, that's your decision. You're grown now. So I don't like it, but let's see what happens.
And look what happened. I mean, man, hindsight is 20/20, but you put your best foot forward into this unknown space that you didn't even go to college for, right?
No. Well, I would now in like looking back, like I use a lot of the stuff that I learned in school and even in my corporate job in my day-to-day now, like spreadsheets, you know, invoicing, forecasting, projections, team management. I'm using all of those skills every day.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say that I didn't need school or that I didn't need the corporate experience, because I for sure did. It helped mold me into the individual that I am today, the business professional that I am today. So,
and it probably gave you a little bit of nuance on how to look at business and entrepreneurship from a completely different aspect as well.
For sure.
And then let's talk about the idea of Detroit versus everybody, right? Because, you know, I'm 23 years old. It caught on, maybe a decade ago or so? You guys are coming into your 10th year?
Yeah, we're going into our 10th year in July 2012.
Yep.
That's when we started. And this is actually our 10-year anniversary. Will be like 3 more months. away. So we're preparing. Like right now, we're doing a rebrand, and we're hoping to do our grand opening, a re-grand opening in July 2022.
So I'm going to go back just a little bit towards those inklings of, the beginning stages of Detroit versus everybody, right? You got me in 2012. I'm a young teenager, right, in the city of Detroit during the time. And I'm looking at these shirts, I'm looking at these hats. I'm like, where in the world is this coming from? Detroit versus, and I'm seeing all of these different types of rappers, influencers, and everybody just rocking the stuff, right? Kind of a culture shock, because at the time, and in even years prior, Detroit had been seen in such a negative light, right? And for me, as that young 13-year-old, I'm looking at this stuff. I even had me a little hat, a little snapback, Detroit versus everybody. Wearing this piece with a sense of pride, with a sense of honor, like, yes, this is my city, this is my town, this is my home, and it's us against the world. But I want to know, where did that start with you and Tommy? What was the idea for the inklings, the beginning stages of Detroit versus everybody? Where did that come from?
So it actually came from Tommy. So at the time, 2011, 2012, let's go back to that time period in Detroit. It was coming out of the recession. The city was, I think, bankrupt. Like, I've never heard of a city being bankrupt. Cities is going through a bankruptcy. And then you have Kwame Kilpatrick. He's going through like his legal battles. So there was just like a negative energy here in the city. Like, if I'm even looking at the real estate market back then. It's like, and that was like maybe nationwide, but in Detroit, at that time you can get property for like, some good property for like very, very low price. Everything was like just down. Like, the economy was down, jobs were down. Like, I was fortunate to come out of school with a job. So it was just a very, very like just rough patch for Detroit at that time. And so Tommy was he's a graphic designer by trade, right? He was working, like, he was doing like graphic design for like Big Sean, Wale, Yellow Wolf. And so he was out here just doing freelance. And so at the time, he had a meeting in LA. So he's going to the airport here. He sees Kwame in the news here. He gets to LA to his hotel room. He sees Kwame in the news in LA. And it's just like, they're just talking bad about Detroit. Like, it's not even like, aside from Kwame, it's just Detroit. It's bad. So he just thought to himself, like, it seems like it's Detroit versus everybody. And so it kind of, something just resonated in him at that moment. And he wrote it down in his pad and came back home. He was riding down Woodward. He just kept thinking it. Thinking the phrase. And so he went, at the time, I think we had a loft. We had we bought we had a screen printing press. We had a screen printing business. He moved in with the machine. Like, the machine, it started off in Russell Industrial, made it to my mom's basement, destroyed my mom's basement, and it made it to this loft with Tommy. And so he's working on, the design, and he just prints the shirt off, right? And then one of his friends was actually performing, like a rapper. He was actually performing, gave him the shirt, or he saw the shirt. He's like, man, let me wear that on stage tonight. He went to perform, came back without the shirt. And then we kind of just been getting orders ever since then.
Man,
it's like snowball.
I guess the one thing, side note, that I'm thinking about is, how in the world did you fit that thing up in the loft, and what was that like?
So we found a great moving service. Like, I'm still cool with this guy to this day. Like, we call him for all our needs. So he's just like an expert at moving things. But it's like, it was rough. Like, that machine is over 500 pounds.
And it's just probably getting it up the elevator or wherever you're trying to put it, man.
And you saw it. You saw the original machine.
That thing's huge. Oh, man. And that's amazing too, man, because during those times, and you kind of touched on it before, just rough. I mean, even before, and it didn't help that our sports teams are, garbage too. Normally, sports teams bring a sense of camaraderie to a city or a town, even if the town's bad.
Well, the Tigers were doing pretty well. Like, I think we hit a World Series or something.
2012,
so that was good.
But the rest, and then the memes about Detroit started coming in and whatnot. But it was seen in a bad light. And you guys worked together to try to not just have a clothing company, right? It's just beyond just wearing attire.
And that's what we're doing right now with our rebrand. Like, because I think we didn't lose our way, but we've never been able to really tell what Detroit versus everybody means to us. Of course, it came from, it's like a rallying cry for the city of Detroit, but it's way deeper than that. Yeah. Like Tommy's vision is for the brand, and he pulled me into the vision, like, because we're just lockstep.
Yeah.
But his vision just goes way beyond just T-shirts and Detroit even as a whole. It's like it's real. Like, he's going to get real intricate with it.
Yeah, it's like I said, me being that young teenager, it was a sense of pride wearing some attire that kind of encapsulated the spirit or the revival of the spirit of Detroit,
right,
which had been gone and dead for so long. I mean, the city itself was the heartbeat, right? That blue collar mindset, that heartbeat of innovation, right? We were the leaders in the automotive industry, which consequently, fueled the rest of the world, right? And then we go from being essentially one of the top states, one of the top cities in terms of industry, to complete bankruptcy. And now we have folks like you at Detroit versus everybody instilling a sense of pride back into the hearts and minds of those same blue collar individuals.
Yeah, because it's so much has come from the city of Detroit. I mean, you got Motown, cars. What else you have? I mean, the Bad Boy Pistons, like how they influence like the sports world. Like, you can go down the line to Detroit, the D fitted with the old English D. It's like so much stuff that's in the culture has been influenced by Detroit. I mean, even Eminem, like, he's top entertainer in the world, comes from Detroit. Yeah, it's like all this stuff has been influenced by Detroit, but Detroit was getting this bad rap. So it's like, we have to bring that together. So that's kind of what the brand did.
Yeah. And that's something that, again, goes beyond just retail, goes beyond clothing, goes beyond anything that is just a materialistic thing. It's an idea. It's a passion. It's a complete concept woven into the fabric of the shirts and the hats and the stitches and whatnot. And I guess to allude to, while we're here today about protecting IP, when something like that gets undermined, what does that do to the sense of what it is that you guys created? Like, when you see things come out like blank city versus everybody, or etc. versus everybody, right? Just taking the same slogan and motto and then trying to reformulate it into something else that fits their little narrative. What is that like?
So at first it's a little aggravating when it first started happening. And we were lucky at the time when we did do the initial trademark. I was actually still working, and I was actually doing law classes at it was called Cooley Law. I was doing weekend law classes, pursuing a law degree. And Tommy asked me, like, "Hey, what do you know about trademarks? Because we need to get this done." So I'm like, let me ask one of my professors. So I was taking a contracts course, and I asked my professor. She linked me with her husband, who was actually an expert in IP. And I talked to him, and he said, it's pretty simple. Like, you could go and pay, money to get it done. But I mean, it's really just a simple process. So he kind of walked me through it. Wasn't perfect, and I needed a lawyer to clean it up on the back end. But I actually did the first trademarks for Detroit versus everybody and versus everybody. I actually pushed the application through, and then we had to have a lawyer finish it off. But to answer your question, when that happens, it's kind of like, now it's like bittersweet. Yeah. Because it's like, okay, it's like, what, imitation is the highest form of flattery, right? So when that stuff happens, I get aggravated at first, but then as I settle in with it, it's like, I mean, it's still getting the brand out there. Yeah, in a way. And if it's significant enough, it's like, if like a big entity infringes on it, then we can do like a cease and desist, or sometimes that might even be an opportunity for us to collab. Yeah. And that's happening. So I don't really get as upset with that happening now, because at the end of the day, when you see that versus everybody out there, it's out there. Yeah. And we have it protected, which, thank you, Lord, that, we were able to do it. We have it protected. So if anything gets out of control, we just put our lawyers on it and it's handled. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that plays a role to your innovative mindset, right? Like, you looked at this as a
It's not as a business opportunity.
Well,
right?
everything.
Yeah.
As I'm learning now, like everything is an opportunity.
Yeah.
And not being opportunistic or trying to be, you know, just trying to gouge money out of everything. But like I read this book and it said that, you know, business is like it's like a spiritual transaction.
Yeah.
Like both parties in the business or all parties within business, they're all supposed to benefit.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at myself, right? As a businessman, I'm always looking for opportunities to not only help myself and my family and my company and my brand, but also to help others.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking for opportunity.
Yeah. And again, man, that plays again back to what you said about your forward-thinking mindset, thinking not just in the immediate terms, but thinking maybe 10, 15 years ahead. So having that type of mindset, it kind of implores you to look at things in terms of opportunity. Like, what would this look like? Or what would this look like 10 years from now? What would this look like 15 years from now? And again, on the back end, it was already good that you guys took the initial steps towards protecting your brand. But I guess to go back a little bit more, what was the first point in time that you decided, oh man, this is getting big, we need to like shore this up on the back end?
The Lions called us. I think it was like Louis Delmas.
Oh yeah, Louis Delmas, yeah.
And then it was so because Delmas was the cornerback, right?
He was strong safety.
Yep. So he was on the defense, and then who was the guy that was on the offense, wide receiver during that time period?
Nate Burleson?
Was it either Burleson or
Calvin?
Wasn't Calvin.
Okay.
Might have been Burleson.
Okay.
Burleson and Delmas. Burleson placed the order for the offense. Delmas placed the order for the defense. So for the whole team, including the management, upper management. And when that happened, I was like just blew away.
Yeah.
Like it was an order, it was a hoodie for each one on the team. I think it was like 150 items. And when we saw that, it was like, we need to protect this because it's getting crazy. Well, at that point, it was like crazy to us. Like we had never had something like that. The Detroit Lions, you know, that's NFL is like top brand in the world. So it's like Lions hitting us up, knocking on our door, and we need to make sure that we protect this.
Yeah, that is insane, man. Just to think, where were you at when you guys got that call from the Detroit Lions?
I was at work. And so I was at work. Tommy texted me, and he always jokes with me now. Like every time I called you when you were at work, you have to whisper, and he always laugh at me. But I was actually at work, and then I think we had about a 3-day turnaround for it. So I was working all night the night before I had to go to work before we had to turn it in. So I go to work at like 8:30 a.m. I take an early lunch, get out of there like 9:15 a.m. And then we dropped the order off. I didn't get back until like 2 p.m. My boss is looking at me like, what's going on? And I was like, I'm sorry, I had a emergency to handle. But you know, that's what that whole experience looked like. Like I was actually at work and then left to drop it off and came back and we went to the Lions facility, got to meet, you know, some players. We actually have video footage on YouTube of the whole experience.
That is like, to me, thinking about that, right? As someone who's, you guys were still catching waves, right? But that was like big.
That was big. That was a big moment.
Like the Detroit Lions, right? And you got like prominent players on the team. Like, yeah, we want to wear your shirt.
So for sure.
You know, that's insane to me. That is insane, and that's again a testament to the influence that the brand has. Like again, it's not just a shirt, man. It's an idea. And during that time too, the Lions were trying to make their comeback. What was that, around the early 2010s or so, right?
That was 2012.
2012.
Yeah.
So yeah, right after they had just made the playoffs for the first time in years, they're like, we need something to instill some revival back into the city of Detroit. That's awesome.
And that was a good era for the Lions. Like from that point to, I would say, about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, that was a good time period.
Yeah, and it was a reflection on a lot of different things that were taking place. And again, I believe you guys had something to do with that as well, because again, so many people, so many influencers, so many prominent Detroit figures were wearing you guys' apparel with a sense of pride. And that's just amazing, man. And then I want to touch on a little bit more about your experience in law. What and I know it was probably a little bit outside of what you were trying to do in terms of like the brand maybe, but how did that translate overall into your understanding, your own personal understanding of IP when it came to your own brand?
Just my brief stint in law school. I learned, for one, I learned, you know, to just read everything. Like read. And you know, just don't sign your life away, right?
Yeah.
So that was one aspect. But then just as far as IP, I learned that, you know, even going through that experience with the professor's husband, and just figuring out like what exactly was a trademark and why it was important. I mean, he also taught me that, you know, a trademark is an actual commodity.
Yeah.
It's not just like you're protecting the brand, but it's actually a commodity that you can sell off or that you can leverage. So like that's where you get into like licensing agreements and stuff like that. And so I learned a lot about just the business side of trademarks. Like, although it's, you know, it has a legal component where it's protecting you, it's also a business side of it. Like it's an actual, like you actually sell the trademark off, keep the company, sell the trademark with the company, keep the trademark, sell the company. So many different ways you can, you know, it's like having a whole nother brand in itself.
Yeah.
So I learned that too.
And just to touch on that a little bit more, how, because the audience today are more than likely full of innovators just like yourself, potential entrepreneurs, maybe folks with small businesses. How important is it for those folks to have an understanding of IP early on, or in whatever stage?
I mean, I tell everybody, if you're starting a business, like you got to get your foundation tight. Like, I'm not saying don't start your business and don't go with your idea, but the sooner you get your foundational stuff, like your incorporations, your trademarks, your copyrights, your EIN, your thing, sooner the better.
Yeah.
Because once you're in too deep, like it's kind of hard to go back and get that stuff done. So it's very, very, very important to get the, you know, trademarks done. But now, or just having the foundational stuff done. But there's another aspect of sometimes people don't have the capital to get some of this stuff done. So I'm like, start your business. Like, even when you're doing trademarks, there's a component of, say someone comes in, they see your idea. You've been doing work on that mark, right?
Yeah.
You have files and you're able to show that that's yours. If someone comes behind you and tries to trademark it, and you see that and you catch it while it's in the application process, you put your application in, the examining attorneys will look at it and say, okay, so this guy's been doing work on the trademark, this guy hasn't. And it's up to them to make the decision. Now, I wouldn't suggest just going down that path, but that's what I always say. Once you start business, and like, you're already protecting your trademark. Like, as long as you can show that you've been doing work, like you have a trademark. Now, going through the formal steps of getting the trademark, that's to your advantage to do, just so when something comes up, you can just refer to that.
Yep.
But you also still have a trademark, a common trademark, once you start business. So I always tell people, like, just as much as you can, get that foundation tight. I mean, I know money's tight. You know, we might be going into another recession. Who knows? Yeah. But get that stuff tight as soon as you can.
Yeah. And that's pretty much with anything, right? And you touched on it before, maybe a month ago, about the foundation of stuff, the foundation of your business, and to treat your business, no matter how small it is, as though you're thinking ahead, right? 10, 15 years ahead, 20 years ahead. What is this going to look like? And you guys got lucky in the point where you were able to shore everything up, in the in-between moments where you were catching fire, right? And then you were like, okay, now let's start to piece this together. But that doesn't always happen with most businesses. Somebody can build something up early on and then start generating revenue, start getting real big within what they're doing, and then somebody goes and copies, and there's nothing they can do, right? And again, establishing a foundation is key to everything. In terms of your wisdom, your experience, your expertise, again, this audience has folks that were just like you. Some of them may be a little bit different. What are some key pieces of advice that you can give, not just about IP, but in general as an entrepreneur, that folks like them can take away from? Some knowledge they can glean from you.
I think the biggest thing, especially if you're going down this entrepreneurial route, and I always like to think of everybody as being a businessman, business person, businesswoman, whatever. Always treat yourself as a business. I don't care if you're working for somebody, if you got your own, treat yourself as a business. Because at some point in your life, like, you have to take control, right? You have to have control of your destiny. So that's like my first piece of advice. Like, don't look at yourself as just a worker. Look at yourself as a business person.
Right.
The second piece, if you're actually doing entrepreneurship, if you're actually building a business, don't be afraid to go. Like, it's all, I would say it's 90% trial and error.
Yeah.
And that's me. That's my, I mean, I know somebody with an MBA might say something totally different. But in my experience, it's all trial and error. Because as you get out here, you start dealing with the big companies. You know, they're all doing this. Like, I'm thinking it's all buttoned up and it's the same thing all across the board. Everybody's trying to figure it out. Everybody's trying to figure out the next move, especially in this social media day. Like, stuff moves so fast.
Oh yeah.
Something can go viral. This could go viral now, and it's to the roof. So everybody's trying to stay ahead, and the only way to stay ahead is to be there. Yeah. Like, it's hard to plan for that. So I'm saying with the person that's going out here trying to be an entrepreneur, trying to start a business, like, just do it. Like, you're not going to be prepared 100%. So, you know, just have that component of just do it. Don't be afraid to fail, because you're going to fail. But use those failures to help you on the next venture or the next idea.
Yeah. And to add to your point too, as we wrap up here with this live form session, coming from a guy who spent 6 years in college in a somewhat completely different field, having a completely different understanding of business and your life direction, to take that turn it's scary, right? But it's truly inspiring for people who are right there on the precipice to take that leap as well, in terms of creating their business. And for you, it worked out because you put in the work, you put in the effort, you had a vision, and you kept going. And then it blew up. In faith. Yeah. And it blew up. And you guys are growing still to this day. And I know you guys got some stuff coming up that we probably won't get into, but again, the growth, right? And it's all there. And it's inspiring for me, for somebody who grew up in the city of Detroit, to see something like this take national attention, right? And in some point, maybe international attention, to bring such strength and solidarity to the city of Detroit. And for that, man, I'm grateful. As a Detroit native, I'm grateful.
Thank you.
And thank you. And to transition a little bit, guys, we're going to show an educational piece that will show you guys some practical steps on how to protect your IP. And stay tuned for the end to get the resource page, the resource link, which is going to have everything for you guys in terms of practicality. I want to give a big thank you to Sean and Detroit versus everybody. I want to give a big thank you to all of our sponsors and partners who helped put this event together, and the folks here at the A-CAPP Center as well for putting this together. And thank you guys.
Thanks,
Sean.
The most important place to start is with your trademark or your copyright. So that's something that you should probably reach out to a lawyer for. And a lot of lawyers actually offer pro bono services for startups or entrepreneurs that are getting ready. So one of the most important things is that you register your trademark wherever you think you're going to use it. So if you're just going to use it in one state, you can do a state registration. Or if you're going to do it all across the US, you can do a federal registration. That's usually recommended, but whatever is done, we highly recommend that you reach out to some type of intellectual property lawyer to help you with this. The second part is recordation, and that's something that you do with US Customs. You will record your trademark with Customs in order to help them prevent counterfeits of your product from entering the US. The other thing to consider is a global intellectual property strategy. Even though you may be in the startup phases or you're just starting as a young entrepreneur and you may just have an idea or maybe one trademark, think about what this looks like globally. Because very quickly, especially if you decide to sell online, your product can go all over the world. Well, that may be great for profits. That also means you have to protect it as well. So work with your lawyer to think about where your product might go or where your product already is going and being pulled into a marketplace that you may not have quite decided on yet. And decide if you want to enter that marketplace and how you're going to protect your IP or trademarks. Whatever route you take, there's an entire brand protection community here that's waiting and willing to help you. Please reach out with any questions. The second one is to think of counterfeiters as an unseen competitor. Often people with products look at their competition in the marketplace, but they tend to forget about the counterfeiters. So we tend to tell people to remember that counterfeiters are a form of competition, albeit in a legal form. And if you can think of your counterfeiter or the people who are counterfeiting your product as a competitor, that may help you with your strategy to deal with them in the marketplace. The next point to consider is e-commerce or social media. Everyone's product nowadays will get onto e-commerce in some way or another, whether that's a marketing strategy for the product or for the brand, or whether a counterfeiter will pull it into the online marketplaces. So that's something to consider. You can search where your product may be right now online and search e-commerce platforms to see if you can find it. The other thing is that e-commerce platforms often have a place for trademark owners to register their mark or their product in advance to try to get further protection. Additionally, there are a number of technology firms, law firms, or other online investigators that can help you search online platforms for counterfeit product. The next thing to consider is a strong relationship with law enforcement. So we're really happy to have the Intellectual Property Rights Center as a partner today, and they're representative of federal law enforcement helping small brand owners in this fight against counterfeit goods. And partnerships can come in many forms and many shapes. It can be with customs, with the IPR Center, with your local law enforcement, or others who are looking to help protect American brands against IP violations, including counterfeit products. One of the other really important things, especially in this field, is collaboration. Collaboration amongst IP rights holders or brand owners, collaboration between rights holders and law enforcement, between law enforcement and the private sector, and even between us and academia. Collaboration is something that is very unique as far as the extensiveness of it in our field. And we encourage all of you to reach out to other partners in your field, in your industry, or even across industry to help us all partner together in the fight against counterfeits and be able to protect your brand and your consumers from counterfeit products.